Hello everyone and welcome to another horrific review. Today we're back discussing Alien Earth Observation, directed by Ugla Hossiter. An unexpected connection is formed while the covert plot puts everyone in danger. Alright folks, here we are again, 4th episode, 1st series, and how to say, this one was not as bad as the last episode. It was watchable. There's still some elements in it, but all in all, the plot is progressing better than what I thought. It's a bit of a roller coaster ride, this. I think we're all just waiting for it to fall off the cliff and descend into chaos. I think the Alien franchise has just been done so badly for so long now that we sort of expect this. But at the end of the day, it's a TV show. TV is shit. It's written by shit people. There's a level of shittiness you have to expect with TV. That's why I hardly watch it, to be honest. And I think you have to kind of have that in mind while you're going through this and maybe put it to the side a bit. I don't know. But like I said, this one wasn't as bad. There's still irritating elements. Boy Cavalier is a meme now. It's frustrating because you can kind of see the bits. Like there's a conversation he has later on with Wendy when they're one-on-one, and you can kind of see his insight where he uses the sort of childish language and that, and he can be on the same wavelength and he can distill complicated thoughts into simple text. But for the most part, he's just a moron. He's over the top. But then again, I have read Steve Jobs' biography, so I think it's similar to the hissy fits he was having. The sort of god complex and everyone around him's a mere mortal. And I've seen that actually in real life with some people, so maybe they're just, I don't know, copying that. But it's just really irritating. The thing is, are they making Prodigy out to be like the super bad guys? Are they trying to make you sympathetic to Wayland Yutani? It's not even Wayland Yutani yet, that's the thing. I keep having to say that. It's Yutani. That was a Wayland Enterprises and Yutani Corporation are separate, I think, at this point. The merger hasn't happened. There's not too much going on with the world, so they're not really giving as much information in terms of the world. They keep mentioning the five, as in the five corporations, etc. But we're not really getting the insight as to where we are. Now, I might have better insight than most because of the role-playing game, purely because they actually map out the timeline on it. But even at that, they don't have that information yet, so they haven't, the game's out before this series. It could all change again. But yeah, I think a wee bit of context as in who's what and the real world implications, because at the moment this is very isolated. This is all taking place on the island, and the bits with Morrow, it's very nuclear. Joe is a hard character to get behind. They've kind of just shoved him in there because the plot needs to happen. They need a human for stuff. And yeah, he's just not, I don't know, he's very wooden. I think that's it. I don't know whether it's the actor or the material he's been given, but this guy's wooden. He's not a flesh and blood character. I think we saw it even when he's going with the squad and stuff. Like he just sticks out like a sort of, he is a square peg. He's a square peg, he doesn't fit, and it's almost like we can't find anything to do with this character. This character's been created and they can't really fit him in. Like the Lost Boys make sense, where they come from and how they're in the situation they are. They're trying to figure things out. They're playing that a bit better. But this Joe character's just, yeah. Even using it as a hook for Wendy, you don't feel it when they're actually together. You don't feel it. You don't see the connection there. You don't see the familial bond, the sense of loss or anything. Or it's all very strange. And I think his character is actually the weakest part of this. Like if he was to get face hugged and chest bursted or fall off a cliff, we really wouldn't miss him for the rest of the show. The show could just carry on without him. He's not central or useful in any shape or form, and you can kind of see the plot having to bend and twist just to give him something to do, and it's really annoying now. They dial back a bit. It's just the way they framed the last episode. Wendy's the chosen one trope they're playing with. Girl is the answer to everything kind of nonsense. It's been overdone by now. But at least this time they distilled down that basically her body, her synthetic body, can tune into frequencies, and it just so happens that she's tuned into the Xenomorphs one. I like the way they played it. They've like dialed her back down again to a relatable character. This is going to be really frustrating because they're going to girl boss her 1 minute, and then they're going to dial her back down, and then they're going to girl boss her again, and it's like, pick a lane and just stick there. And then you've got this sort of weird drama between the characters, and you're just like, this is just TV shit. It's just, let's have drama between the characters because it's a TV show and we need to have drama between the characters. I don't know, it just feels forced. Right, there's the specimens themselves, there's Yutani, there's the other corporations, there's other interested parties. They could play with the morality of what they've done, but no, they just have these forced arguments because why not? The Morrow slightly conversations are like super creepy now, and obviously Morrow's taking it to the next level. He's found out slightly his real name, and then is able to track down his family, which is interesting. The fact that he's doing this on his own as a rogue agent is stupid. Okay, one name, so let's track down terminally ill child that died with that one name. Yeah, I'm not buying it, and he's doing it on his own. Like, if he was part of the Yutani task force and had them behind him, yeah, it would make sense in him operating the way he does. Like, I don't understand I think that's my problem here. I don't understand him going rogue. He should be doing this with the blessing of Yutani and the fact that he's still trying to redeem himself. It would make more sense. The problem I was having, obviously, with the fact that he used an implant on Slightly to be able to communicate, it's the fact that it hasn't been picked up. We see Wendy all the time getting diagnostics run on her. Does this not happen to the rest of them? Like, they're all prototypes. Yeah, she was the first one, but at the same time, would they all not go through this? Would that thing not be picked up? It just so happens that Kirsch has twigged on to what's happening, and this is the good thing about the episode, is they're not going to drag this shit on too long. Kirsch is aware, he's listening into the conversation, he knows what the plan is, because he can hear both sides of it, so that's cool. At least they know. And it's not going to be some stupid thing they're going to drag out for about 4 episodes to see this getting wrapped up quickly, because it's not good. We get the sheep scene. So they've been teasing the sheep scene for like ages now. So we finally get the sheep scene, and it's with the eyeball thing. So there we go. We have the psychiatrist and her husband having this conversation, questioning what they're doing. And yeah, that was actually makes sense. But I just think the way the dialogue's written on this is just very clunky. But she's going to fix it with dumplings, and that'll be all fine. So that's why they wrapped that up. There's a good show in here. I think that's what's frustrating me. There is the potential of a good show in here. It could be really tight, but they've dumbed it down. That's the problem. They've done stupid things, and they've dumbed it down, and I've just the feeling this is going to drag on and get wrapped up in like an episode at the end and be silly. I could be wrong. Like I said, for the most part, I enjoyed this, but I could not watch 3 or 4 seasons of these actors and these characters. Definitely not. This is a 1 season, one and done thing. I really couldn't be bothered. Like, there's too much about them that irritates me. We'll have this scene with Nibs. Nibs decides she's pregnant now, or she wants to be, and she's told no during one of her sessions. She goes a little bit psychotic and shows how dangerous she is. So it's almost like they're rejecting the program. They're not psychologically prepared for what would happen. You would think that this setup, this is a major piece of research and development. You'd think they have this planned out, and they would have child psychology, not just one, but they would have done all the studies on child psychology and removing them from their families, etc., etc. I don't know, it just feels like they're winging it. Honestly, it does. It feels like they've just done this thing and decided, what's the worst could happen, blah, blah, blah. Let's just crack on. Yeah, there's this conversation between Joe and Adam. And his character's horrible. He's just dumb as rocks. He's no awareness of the situational awareness in him whatsoever. It's really frustrating. Of course, he's not going to take Wendy home. Like, how is he not twigged on? This is like a completely off the book secret experiment and a major step on AI, transhumanism, blah, blah, blah. And he thinks they're just going to, we'll just live our lives out. It's stupid. How is he? He's in the world. It's not like he's lived in a bubble. He's worked with combat medics. He's seen all sort of conflicts in the world and intercorporation, interdepartmental politics, etc., and how it works, even with him trying to end his contract and go to medical school. He's an idiot. He's an absolute idiot. There's a good scene with Cavalier and Wendy, and every time I see that bloke, I'm sort of cringing a bit, just the way he's hammed up. But actually, he's talking to Wendy on her wavelength, and they're negotiating for Joe, like basically, can Wendy have a puppy sort of thing. But it was a good conversation. We need to see more of that. We need to see him switch between talking to the kids and showing how you can switch from that to the sort of high level thinker. But we're not, like I said, when he's with that's where it lets down. When he's with the adults, he's a moron. This is all leading to, by the way, Morrow wants Slightly to steal an egg. That's not going to happen. Instead, he wants to put a human in front of Facehugger Egg, get him impregnated, and then sneak him out of the facility, because that's just as doable. And yeah, obviously it's going to be Joe. Makes sense. What I will say though, the ending of this episode was actually pretty decent. So they're using Joe's lung, as was seen before, to incubate a xenomorph. Wendy's monitoring, and we'll get the chest burster scene, within the glass and that, and the xenomorph coming out. But Wendy being able to communicate, use what she knows to communicate with it, and it communicating back and responding. That was actually quite a cool scene, and it shows how their abilities, work. We're just not seeing it from the rest, except for Isaac. Isaac's, can't remember what his name was before, but he decided he's going to be Isaac now. He's helping Kirsch in the lab and he's learning that, so he's a decent character. You can kind of see him progressing. The rest are just sort of there for the sake of it. It's not Resident Evil. Like, Resident Evil, I couldn't go through one episode and it just stopped. That was a pile of shit, so it's not quite that. If I didn't watch this, I wouldn't miss it. But I'm interested now to see how it plays out. I just hope they pull together and they don't go too much into the cheesiness. But we'll see. Anyway, let me know what you think. Until next time, keep up to date with the channel, do the type of things, and remember to keep it creepy, keep it horrific.